How's it going, everybody? This is week 2 of the NASCAR Olympics break. Last week we recapped the Dover and the Darlington race weeks. I didn't cover those during those race weeks, and now we're doing the other two races that I haven't recapped, those being the Circuit of the Americas and the Nashville weeks. Once again, just like last week, I'm joined by Andrew. Say hi, Andrew.
Hello, everyone.
Alright, let's jump right into the COTA race week. It was quite a wild race that week, wouldn't you say, Andrew?
Yeah, it was. The visibility was not very good for the drivers. They had windshield wipers, but like Amala said, it could only really clean like 3 inches of that windshield, and that windshield is more than 3 inches long. So it was definitely a wet and wild race, and definitely exciting one.
Rain was a factor all week long during the inaugural Circuit of the America race, and then we had some incidents along the way, such as early on, William Byron had some rear end damage. He got rear-ended by somebody, and he had to spend most of the race getting that fixed, so that took him out of contention for stage points. And then by the end of it, had only a 11th place showing, just 26 points.
Yeah, and also to include like more other guys that you think would be good at road courses, like Truex. He was definitely running good at the beginning. Just in that stretch where there was really heavy rain, he just ended up crashing out. Blaney, you think would be good at this track. I think he just really ended up having a terrible day with some tire problems and getting into a crash. Christopher Bell, the winner.
To Byron.
Yes, similar to Byron. Yep. Christopher Bell, another one. He won at the Daytona Road Course, so you would think the momentum would carry over to the Circuit of the Americas. It did. He just ended up being in another crash and under heavy rains. Harvick, a veteran, not really good at the road courses this year. Well, actually, he was top 10 in points this year at the Daytona Road Course, but yeah, just he had an incident in the heavy rains, also crashed out. And then we saw Cindric spin at the end, so that definitely hurt a lot of people if they ended up garaging Cindric. And the other guy that I can think of that had a incident that really cost people a lot of points is Kurt Busch. He was definitely battling for around 7th to 9th, but then he just slid off the track. Just couldn't judge that braking area and had too much, probably with too much rain, in the braking area, and so he slid off in turn. Do you remember what turn it was?
Oh, there's a lot of turns, but right before the end of the lap, yeah, that hurt. That really hurt me. I started Kurt Busch in a good chunk of my lineups this week. He was running around 8th place with 8 stage points, and if you could have just held on to that track position, he would have been just fine for a 30-point result. And then he missed the corner and then lost about 20 spots.
Yeah, the actual corner, just looking up a map of COTA right now, is actually turn 12. So it's just that long stretch after coming out of turn 11. Very heavy braking zone. He just misjudged it, or there probably was way too much rain on the tires, and so yeah, he ended up going to the gravel. Still ended up finishing 22nd. So hey, at least he finished, but yeah, definitely cost people around like 10 to 20-ish points there.
So that was quite the big day at Circuit of the Americas. Likely went to the garage very early, especially if you had, say, Ryan Blaney or William Byron. I went with the route of saving my William Byron play over Ryan Blaney, just because he was, besides road course, William Byron's just running really good at some 750 tracks that I just needed an extra use for.
Yeah, I would say they're kind of equal. More on the oval, like you can basically run them both at 750 and 550. Although Blaney is a bit worse than Byron when it comes to 550, and then some 750 tracks. But they're really both good guys to save, or really good strong contenders, and some really good equipment there in the Penske Ford and Team Hendrick Chevy, respectively.
So I look at some of your lineups here, Andrew, for the Circuit of the Americas week. You nailed the bonus picks. If you went full on the Chase Elliott Hendrick Chevrolet picks, you would have gotten a perfect sweep there. But you decided to split with the Joe Gibbs pick. But still, 230 points here. This is quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Just covering all my bases, either with Kyle Busch wins. But just Chase Elliott is just dominant on all road courses, so safest bet is just to go Chase Elliott as your race winner, top Chevy, manufacturer as Chevy and your team or your team, yeah, your top team as Team Hendrick.
Right, and then looking at some of my lineups, you clearly had me beat this COTA race weekend. You had what, well above 200 points, and here I am struggling to try and meet 180. That's really because my main lineup had Kurt Busch and Ryan Blaney, both lacking a lot of points, either by no stage points or just a mistake at the very end. I also went a little bit more in. Put more eggs in the Joe Gibbs winning idea basket by having Truex in my bonus picks. I took him out of. I could have easily had him in my starters as well, but he didn't show very good speed in practice this race, and then I just left him in just the bonus picks because I still like the idea of Truex winning at COTA at that time, but unfortunately, combined with the fact that his speed wasn't all that great this race, and his pitch strategy wasn't all that great, he found himself well in the back, and that's when he started. That's where he ran into the trouble of running into the back of Michael McDowell in the rain, and then eventually getting finished off by Cole Custer.
Yeah, Truex. Everyone thought that he would actually be good at all the road courses, just like a Chase Elliott, because Daytona road course he was also running well. But that didn't happen that weekend. It could have been just because it was the rain. Or, I mean, even afterwards, you see Road America, he only finished 9th, and he really wasn't a fast car. So, really, these newer road courses are definitely a challenge for Martin Truex Jr. Unlike Chase Elliott, who can really just pick it up that quickly. Even though with practice, he still kind of struggled in it. In this COTA race, he was 23rd on the final practice. And, we only had one practice anyway, so... Yeah, he did show some speed in the beginning, although the beginning was definitely a weird start to the race. So, yeah, Truex at road courses, you couldn't really predict this. Maybe the only thing you could really predict was him being good at the older road courses instead of the newer ones.
And looking through my next lineup, your Bowman 48 Ally, pretty much the same results as your Andrew Yu lineup, just a few less points. You had to use up your William Byron play because you had to garage Christopher Bell. But looking at pick Stenhouse for myself, this is where my only good result from Circuit of the Americas came from, and that's just from picking Chase Elliott all the way to in my bonus picks to win. But what really carried my lineup, if it wasn't Ryan Blaney or William Byron, AJ Allmendinger was a very good solid pick for Circuit of the Americas, given a good 35 points. Nothing too stellar, but 35 points is very respectable to have in your starters.
Very respectable indeed. He's in this mid-tier kind of equipment. Colleague in their first or second year of Cup racing. They're doing more races than last. I think last year they only ran the Daytona 500 with Justin Haley in the 16 car, but this year they had Casgrove on the 500, didn't work out, but AJ on these road courses, he's really a solid guy to at least finish in the top 10 in points. He ended up finishing 5th, so that's nice. Only 3 stage points, but hey, he really showed that he can really dominate or be really good at these road courses. Not so much dominate.
Looking through the rest of our results from the COTA week, all right results. No Chevy. I didn't have any of the Hendrick powers of like the likes of Chase Elliott or Kyle Larson at their disposal. So we're going to look at our drivers of Circuit of the Americas. I think we got to start with Chase Elliott because I could easily just talk about Chase Elliott at whatever road course, but here's a good place to show off Elliott's results at road courses. So not counting the Daytona road course, Elliott has finished in the top 2. His results at road courses in the last 6 races are ridiculous. Either he's not winning them, he is earning tons of points to the likes of in the 30s or so. He still earned about 31 points at the Daytona road course. And Elliott's quickly showing us why he's a must-play at all the road courses this year.
Yeah, he is just... I think they even use in the broadcast, he's really the king of road courses so far. And if not, it's really Hendrick that's really dominating all these road courses if, they don't end up screwing it up on pit road, or if NASCAR just doesn't end up screwing it up for them. But yeah, Chase Elliott has just definitely had that speed. You can't really count him out if he's starting in the back. He's just going to end up using that race to his advantage, and you just keep tuning that car until like it's the best car that's out there, even though he's starting in the back.
All right, and then moving on to some other drivers. These are some sleeper picks that would have been extra tangy for your starters if you happen to put them in there, like Ross Chastain. Starting after the Daytona Road Course earlier this February, he's been getting top tens in the last, starting with COTA, in these last 3 road courses, not counting just COTA. He's also finished 7th in Sonoma and Road America.
Oh yeah, this guy is definitely a sleeper and someone you can use as a saver if if you run out of Truex juices, or if you run out of Logano or Kyle Busch, these guys that are really good at road courses. But Ross Chastain has really surprised me. Sonoma, no one had practice. Everyone would have thought Reddick or Bell would have done good. Bell was kind of up there, but just ended up binning it at the end, or screwing up at the end. Ross Chastain, that car, he's definitely just fighting for his chance to be in the playoffs. As this is last year for CGR, as they're gonna end up becoming Trackhouse. It doesn't matter what road course he's on. Well, maybe not the Robles, but these true road courses, he's definitely someone to look out for, and definitely a must start in your garage.
For sure, at either Watkins Glen or Indy coming up in these few weeks. The final driver I want to move on before we get into our top points of COTA is Chase Briscoe, the other Chase. Not counting Sonoma, Briscoe's been very good at the newer road courses. He's finished 6th at COTA and in Road America. These are some very respectable results.
I would say he's kind of like that Reddick play, or a Reddick as a driver. He's gonna do really good on these road courses with the practice. And then Sonoma, he tried to get some practice in by running the ARCA race that was a day before. He ended up winning that race, but it really shows to the fantasy players that a Cup car versus an ARCA car, or any lower series kind of car or vehicle, is very non-comparable. But still, the track experience was trying to get there. Still ended up finishing top 20, so hey, you learned something, because otherwise he could have finished he usually finishes around like 25th to 20th, but not starting usage wise. But yeah, he's just definitely been that SHR car to use on road courses. Upcoming with this upcoming Watkins Glen race, just definitely put him in your no Chevy lineups, and just be cautious of playing him, because there's no practice. Even though he did run a race there, he finished around like 11th or 10th. But yeah, just Chase Briscoe's a good guy to use on road courses with practice. So the Indy road course that's coming up after Watkins Glen.
And even if it's in your serious lineup, sticking him in top Ford only isn't also not so bad idea. If you're not feeling the idea of Joey Logano getting top Ford at Watkins Glen, then Chase Briscoe is a nice second candidate to top Ford. So Briscoe, he's getting up there in the road course prowess, just like the other Chase.
Yeah, that family of Chases, maybe they can actually be good at these road courses. Another thing to mention about Briscoe and Chastain, I know they're 100 points behind, the cutoff line, but hey, maybe just going after these stage points and just, maybe sacrificing that win is a possibility. Although, most likely they're going to have to go for the win in these next 4 or 5 races before the playoffs. So, that's good for you, because, we count stage points and this type of fantasy.
Right, indeed. And so we're going to look at the top results from Circuit of the Americas. You got your usual suspects in the top 4: Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch. They lead the field of drivers that earn the most points. But looking at that bottom half of that top 8, that gets pretty interesting. We got Michael McDowell, Chase Briscoe, Ross Chastain, and Tyler Reddick, your pole sitter, hanging on for a top 10 finish and beyond 35 points.
Yeah, so let's mention the guys that are in the back that you didn't expect to be there. So Michael McDowell and Tyler Reddick. McDowell, actually, you might have expected him, since he did really well at the Daytona Road Course, if I remember. He ended up finishing 10th in fantasy-wise, 0 stage points, but ended up finishing 8th. So not a bad day for him. Just here at COTA, he just somehow mastered it, and, Front Row Motorsports gave him a good car to run with. And, he ended up finishing top 9 in the points. So gotta give a shout out to him and that somewhat mid-tier team to really low-tier team. And then Tyler Reddick, your pole sitter for this COTA race. They qualified in the dry, but had the second best 5 lap average behind Bowman. Although these 5 lap averages, I don't know if you can really trust them with the timing issues, but still, he was really fast on track. I know he kind of spun out at around maybe the end or the middle of the race, but still ended up coming back to finish top 9 in the points with, I see, 8 stage points. So that's really good for RCR. And, he's really on that playoff line, so he's got to be fighting for his life. And, with these next 2 road courses, he can definitely gain a gap to his teammate Austin Dillon, who's just terrible at road courses. And I don't even know how he got his Sonoma finish. And Logano just carrying his momentum over from the Daytona road courses and the road courses past, where he finished in the top 10. Definitely those 2 guys are to watch out for other road courses in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Logano has been sneaky good at the road courses as of late. If you follow up his results from COTA to Sonoma just 2 weeks later, he backs that up. He gets another 42 points there. He sneaks in a top 5 finish with some good pit strategies from Paul Wolf and the gang.
Yeah, maybe the crew chief change has inside Penske has definitely helped him get better at road courses, although he did win Glen in 2015, so maybe it's just his experience. But yeah, Joey Logano has been really good at road courses, although he ended up finishing 11th at not Circuit of the Americas, Road America, which is still pretty good. Ended up finishing 15th, but those 5 stage points really helped him. So I goes to show you that stage points actually really matter, and they can actually help a driver out. But yeah, I mean, you can't really blame them. That's really a new road course, and sometimes, yeah, some drivers are good at some road courses, and some drivers are not.
Right, and so that's our recap for Circuit of the Americas. Some good, a good chunk of it bad. If you chose Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, you do have to eat those plays if you have at least two of that 3 group. But there's the other race week that we're covering in this video. It's the Nashville race weekend. Now, there is a big elephant in the room when we are going to be talking about this Nashville recap. It is the post-race penalty for Chase Elliott. At the end of the race, there were multiple lug nuts missing from the wheels of his car, and that resulted in him getting disqualified from the race. He forfeits all of the stage points he earned and his place finish as well. So he gets credited with just 1 point, and that was a major ouch to all fantasy players that played Chase in this Nashville week.
Yeah, I ended up just really not using Chase Elliott this weekend. I kind of fathom why. A lot of players used Chase Elliott this weekend. Maybe it's because of his 750 stats this year, which are pretty good. He has been 6th in the speed rankings for 750 tracks with an 8.3 average. Well, that's including Nashville before the penalty. But yeah, I kind of really fathom him. I would have thought to just use him more on past experience tracks, so on ovals and besides the road courses and the short tracks. The only ovals I'd really use them at are, Martinsville, Michigan, and really Charlotte.
Alright, so let's look at a few of the results from Nashville here. It was a rather high-scoring week, thanks to the prowesses of Kyle Larson and William Byron leading the way for most of the race, collecting tons of stage points, especially Larson. He earns 19 on total of stage points, along with the race win, 59 stage points. If you had Larson in, then you're already on tracks for a high-scoring day.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't his normal, or it wasn't his past races where he got 60, but hey, only 1 point. Still, he was really dominant in that race. Just really didn't let anyone let go by him, as he led 264 laps out of 300. So that's pretty much more than 50%. And usually a guy who leads more than 50% of the race would probably win the race. All the Hendrick cars were pretty good. Minus kind of Bowman. He was iffy there, but Chase before that disqualification. Oh,
Bowman was fairly slow throughout all of Nashville week. He didn't show all that much speed in practice, I don't believe, and he could have easily finished somewhere on the fringe of the top 20. And I believe some late race incidents led him rally to finishing inside the top 15. It might not have been with stage points, but he got a little bit more out of this result than he could have easily gotten with what he's shown throughout the midway section of this Nashville race.
Yeah, and going back to Hendrick Motorsports, they were really good. Besides Bowman, but yeah, really no one could compete with them. And besides even Hendrick Motorsports, like the top 5 are really much Chevys. And then if you go really top 10, you can add Daniel Suarez and Chastain as, Chevy. So really Chevys came out to this race. And even in practice, they really showed their stuff. And I kind of question that because, you would think by now it'd be like Fords and Toyotas dominating like last year. But, actually it was the Chevys that ended up dominating or doing really good in this race.
And one thing I want to address with all of our results here is the top Ford and top Toyota pick. This is a rather tricky result here because Eric Almirola ended up winning the top Ford and Christopher Bell won the top Toyota. I don't think anybody had those two combinations of drivers getting that that top manufacturer odds, and let alone they do it again in New Hampshire just several weeks later.
Yeah, for Nashville, I think Denny Hamlin was on track to being the top Toyota, or Kyle Busch was. I know Denny Hamlin just ended up pitting at the end, just another fuel mileage race, and they just couldn't capitalize and had to go for a splash of fuel on the last lap of the race, if I remember. And then, in the Ford camp, Harvick was on track, ended up getting passed by his teammate, just like Dover, he ends up getting passed by someone. At Dover, he got passed by Logano after really, I think really just being that dominant Ford for most of the race. But yeah, just kind of sad if you ended up picking Harvick, but you weren't off by too much. Just only one position. Christopher Bell, his 750 speeds are really good, so definitely. But yeah, just Christopher Bell, maybe someone that you wouldn't have expected, but it goes to show you that he's, performing somewhat well in that JGR equipment. And I think he only ended up being 9th in the race. There wasn't really a lot of Toyotas being up there. I know Kyle Busch was up there a lot, but just, at the end he just faded and ended up finishing 11th. So Toyota this weekend was not theirs, and you can really tell through Martin Truex Jr. His qualifying lap was terrible. In his first corner, he went up so high that he almost crashed that car, just like Quinn Houff. Of all people, you could compare Truex to Quinn Houff. Like, wow. Yeah, and Quinn Houff just crashed on lap 1. So, yeah, it wasn't the week for Toyotas this weekend.
Yeah, and another thing mentioned too, there's some brake rotor flying off the car, and there's a few incidents that if you did start him, that was a major ouch on your lineups. Mainly Ryan Blaney and Chris Buescher both would go up in the wall after running over brake rotor parts. So that was certainly something. Back to your Kyle Busch thing, I think he fell back to 11th. It was because he was having issues with the handling of his car. On radio, he's always complaining about how his car is handling. If it really is off, then he's really letting the pit crews have it.
Definitely. Kyle Busch is no stranger to definitely, criticizing his crew and just maybe not putting it on himself, but yeah, he just really wants that car, and it really just shows how much he really wants to, be competitive and be a race winner. Another thing to note, for like Ford or this, particularly Stewart-Haas Racing, they continue like a streak or like another race where 2 other cars end up finishing top 15 and then 2 other cars just completely wreck out. You can go back to Darlington. Briscoe, I think, ended up finishing 11th in fantasy points, and Harvick was up there, but Custer and Almirola wrecked out. So Stewart-Haas is, it's hard to predict besides maybe Harvick, but then again Harvick is a bit hard to predict, as you can see in like future weeks.
Right. So let's look at our drivers we're going to be mentioning at Nashville. We're going to start with, we're not going to do the race winner because I kind of did his 750 stats in 2021 last week, but we'll go with his teammate William Byron. And before New Hampshire, Byron has been amazing at these 750 horsepower races. He's been scoring inside the top 5, Nashville 3rd, and if not top 5, then for sure top 10. Looking at all these short tracks earlier in the season as well, we're getting 40 and beyond points. A lot of good starts with Byron if you end up using him that much.
Yeah, Byron is definitely one to be used on 750 tracks. I think I ended up calculating his average points besides New Hampshire to be like 41 points. So that's really good for a driver and his equipment. He's really top tier with Team Hendrick. He's definitely shown out on the 750 and also on the 550. So yeah, Byron definitely looked to be like the guy to be used in the later stretch. But I think it really just started at maybe Pocono. He was running good at Pocono, just really couldn't finish. That's where this streak of he couldn't finish in this third stage or at the end really just started.
Next driver we want to mention from the Nashville week is Christopher Bell, our top Toyota from that week. He really improves on the 750 horsepower races ever since winning at Daytona, and he also had some good results during the short track stretch as well, with some top 10 showings. But he's certainly putting things together at these types of tracks, and who knows, if he gets more starts on these, he can get win number 2 on his career.
Yeah, in these 750 tracks, his speed rating on like all the tracks that you see on the screen so far, well, minus New Hampshire, is 8th at Phoenix, 10th at Martinsville, 5th at Richmond, 8th at Darlington, 21st at Dover, and 11th at Nashville. So he's been really good at about all the tracks. Just Dover, I guess maybe it's more the rougher surface tracks, or the ones maybe experience plays a little bit more than just being good at 750 at Dover. So maybe that's why he struggled. But and also the Darlington result, you may be wondering how that was good. He was definitely running top 10 in that race. I think last week I also mentioned it. He just ended up hitting the wall or scubbing the wall that he had to come down and pit, and still ended up finishing 14th. But yeah, he definitely showed some speed for being in that JGR car in his first year. Because I know even though he was with Levine last year, Darlington is in general just tricky, even for veterans, to run that track.
Right, indeed. And there's one more driver we want to mention for Nashville, and it's Eric Almirola. He's gonna finish in front of Christopher Bell for New Hampshire, but he's the top Ford. It's been more bust than boom for Almirola in the 2021 season, leading right before the New Hampshire win. But he's had a few good results in the 750 horsepower rules, not counting the road courses. The 3 tracks that stick out in my mind that Almirola has done good at nearly every start he's been on are Phoenix, Richmond, and New Hampshire. Almirola has made sure to get at least around 30 points. I know in the season finale race last year at Phoenix, he didn't get that many, kind of stayed out of the way of the championship contenders. But say that wasn't the case, then Almirola is always good at Phoenix and the other 2 tracks I've mentioned.
Yeah, I think really just the common denominator out of Richmond, Phoenix, and Nashville, and also New Hampshire. Just there are a lot shorter tracks. 750. Maybe shorter tracks you use horsepower really doesn't matter that much, but yeah, just really these shorter tracks he's done really well at, and maybe even flatter tracks. Although Nashville does have a bit of banking, but these flatter short tracks are really what matches not only Almirola, but also some of Stewart-Haas racing. And it's really, if you really want to use Stewart-Haas anywhere, it's just use them at these shorter flat tracks and maybe throw them at a super speedway. But that's about it really for Almirola. Also, and then maybe use only Almirola when he's starting the top 10. Or, when he starts in top 10. New Hampshire, I don't think he really started in top 10. So, that's kind of a shocker. But Nashville won the pole. Ended up really holding strong in that race and finishing 4th. So, yeah, those are some tips on how to start Eric Almirola.
There you have it. Those are 3 drivers we thought were pretty eye-catching for the Nashville week, and then they went on to have even greater results. Mainly Almirola went on to win New Hampshire. But we're going to look at the top 8 best results from Nashville. You got your race winner, Kyle Larson, scoring darn near close to perfect score with 59 points. And then quite the oddball of drivers, 4th on back in that top 8. Got the likes of Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse. I'm very satisfied with that play for Pick Stenhouse. He had him and got me 40 points. And then you got Daniel Suarez and then Eric Almirola also in that top 8.
Yeah, and this top 9 top 8. Yeah, you can see about majority of these slots are filled. 6 out of 8, so around 75% of these slots are really filled with these Chevy drivers. So really Chevy definitely came out with their stuff this weekend. Kurt Busch definitely, I think this was really when he kind of started this climb to, ended up winning his race and being in the chase. Although, actually that was Sonoma where he ended up, still finishing the top 5. But yeah, definitely, still hanged on to that car. Because why I say that is because he ran out of fuel on the front stretch, but still ended up coming home in 8th with 11 stage points. Austin Dillon, he's been okay at these 750 tracks. I like Reddick a bit more on these 750 tracks, even though Austin Dillon's beating him in the speed, in speed on the 750 by just 0.2. So they're really close on these 750 tracks. But yeah, I guess they showed something here in Nashville. Stenhouse, I just couldn't really predict this. Maybe some of the practice results had something. He was second fastest in the drivers and late in the run, so he definitely showed some speed. Kind of very unusual.
Spot 2.
Yeah, kind of very unusual for him. Because I think Charlotte he also had a good spot. He just ended up finishing 15th, so pretty mediocre. But he somehow hanged on to finish really good. Daniel Suarez I can maybe explain because if you pick this up in the Atlanta race, he was running top 10 in speed wise, and just on the track just ended up having a pit road penalty at the end, and just that threw his race off for his first top 10 for Trackhouse. But yeah, just if you look at Dover, if you look at this Nashville race, and if you look at Bristol Dirt, just these shorter concrete tracks are what maybe suit Daniel Suarez if you really want to use them at all in the upcoming races for next year or this year. Although next year, it's a next gen, so that could, screw some things around, but that's where Trackhouse has really excelled. Eric Almirola, like we talked about, it was just definitely a starting spot, and maybe just going off of his teammate of Harvick. So yeah, and then Kyle Busch, somehow broke that curse of that pedigree car. I know, pedigree car has definitely had a bad curse on it because he's wrecked out or he's had bad luck with it in the past races. He kind of had bad luck in this race, ended up falling back to around 18th, but still rebounded and somehow kind of scathed that curse of the pedigree car.
Right, indeed. And I think Almirola was on pole for this Nashville race, so knowing that he's going to make use of that track position at the beginning of the race, and he brought it home for a top 8 most points result. And then Kyle Busch, that's super weird. The fact that is it more like a psychological thing, knowing that your paint scheme is cursed, and then you just let the bad luck keep going? But fortunately, you could have been a whole lot worse with this result. We're looking at last year at, say, Dover, or more so New Hampshire last year. That was quite something. And one of the Pocono races, he wrecked out while he was in the pedigree scheme as well.
Yeah, just, some schemes are just really bad, so maybe factor in, maybe it's a superstitious thing, but yeah, just some schemes are really just bad luck in general. So why don't you stay away from them? Even for example, maybe the research scheme that Truex just ran, although it wasn't in his usual black form, it was in I would say Windows XP screensaver.
Like a picnic theme.
Yeah.
The scary part is he's going to be running that scheme for Watkins Glen. Kind of need him to have a good race there at Watkins Glen. Maybe his prowess at that track will carry the fact that he's running in the research scheme.
Yeah. Although the research scheme did have one good race, the Pocono 2 race, but yeah, kind of a bit scary for him that he's running that research scheme. And Watkins Glen especially. Good road course for him. But yeah, just sometimes paint schemes aren't the way to go. But sometimes paint schemes, you have to consider them in fantasy.
There you have it, guys. That's our results from Circuit of the Americas and Nashville. Now it's this is the last half of my op break. I'm all caught up with all the recaps. Next week we're heading to Watkins Glen. The race starts at August 8th at around noon, I want to say, at Pacific Standard Time. Thank you, Andrew, for helping me get through the recaps from all these races that I did miss, whether it be in May. And with Nashville, it was a bit later, had some unique reasons for that as well. So thank you, Andrew, for being here.
Yep, no problem. And I'm happy to give you my advice whenever you want. And, we might not be able to continue, being dual for the rest of the season, but definitely we'll see where we can get me back.
All right, I'll for sure wrap up the remaining of the regular season by myself, but I'd like to have you back on the show for when we do picks for the playoffs.
Okay, so that's when we'll probably you'll probably see me again. I'll definitely, give some advice maybe for Watkins Glen just now for a second. Um, since I'm not gonna be on next week, just definitely use like Chastain, Kurt Busch, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell. Those are some really good sleeper-ish plays, but top plays. But your top plays are Chase Elliott, Truex, maybe even Denny or Kyle Busch, and then Logano's definitely one to watch out. I know he's won in 2015, but in the past years he's had just terrible races, 29.5 as his average finish there. Although he has had momentum on road courses, so yeah, just definitely see on him. And then Blaney and Harvick are the ones that haven't been doing good on road courses this year, but the experience may help them out. So that's just my advice for next week. But Jackuwarz will have more info on all that next week.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk about all that and more next time on NASCAR Fantasy Showcases. My picks for fantasy. But once again, thank you, Andrew. We'll see you again very shortly on this show. Thank you guys for watching the last of my recap of previous races while we're having the NASCAR Olympic break. 2 weeks, that is. This is the last week. But we're finally getting back to we're scheduling another race at Watkins Glen. So you guys have a good day. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.